two completely different futures. Picture two women, same company, same payday. The 25th of every month, $4,800 landing in both their accounts at exactly the same time. The first one feels a rush the moment it arrives. Rent gets paid, a few things she'd been waiting on get ordered, dinner out feels easier to justify because payday just happened. By the 10th of the following month, the account is already thin again. Not because anything went wrong, just because money arrived without a plan and left the same way. The second one does something in the first 20 minutes after her paycheck arrives that most people never do, never think to do, and never get told to do. It takes less than 15 minutes. It doesn't require discipline, a spreadsheet, or any kind of financial expertise. But she's done it every single payday for 7 years without skipping once. Today, on the exact same salary, she has $127,000 saved, zero high-interest debt, and a growing investment account she's never once had to think about, because it runs itself. The difference wasn't the salary, it wasn't luck. It was those first 15 minutes, every single payday, that most people spend on anything except the one thing that actually matters. This is exactly what she does, and why it works. Here's what almost nobody tells you about payday. It's the single most powerful financial moment in your entire month, and most people waste it completely. Not because they're careless, but because nobody ever taught them what to do with it. The first few minutes after money arrives are the only minutes in the month where you have full control over every dollar before life, habit, and spending pressure step in to claim it. What happens in those minutes determines almost everything that follows. What follows are 10 specific steps, the exact payday routine that separates people who always seem to be building wealth from people who earn well and somehow still feel like they're falling behind. The first thing she does when the paycheck notification arrives isn't open her banking app with a plan to spend. It's nothing. She waits 20 minutes. Not because 20 minutes changes the math, because the first impulse that arrives with a paycheck is almost never the most important one. It's the most emotionally charged one. The thing you've been waiting to buy. The dinner you've been deferring. The small reward your brain has already decided you deserve for surviving another month. Those impulses are real and they're not wrong. But acting on them before doing anything else means the most powerful financial moment of the month gets spent before a single intentional decision has been made. The 20-minute rule is about creating a gap between the arrival of money and the first decision about where it goes, because decisions made in that gap are almost always better than decisions made in the first 30 seconds of a payday notification. The first transfer she makes, within 30 minutes of payday, every single month without exception, is her savings contribution. Not after rent, not after groceries, before anything. The first woman plans to save whatever's left at the end of the month. The second woman saves first and lives on whatever's left after that. Those two approaches produce wildly different results on identical incomes because whatever's left at the end of a month is almost always close to zero, while a fixed amount moved before spending begins is always exactly what was planned. This is the foundational step of every payday routine that actually builds wealth. Savings is not a reward for spending carefully. It is the first line item, moved automatically before a single dollar has the chance to become available for anything else. She transfers 20%, not because 20% is the right number for everyone, because she calculated once, years ago, what percentage she could move without it affecting her ability to cover real expenses, and she's never adjusted it downwards since. Within the same hour, every fixed bill gets paid. Rent, utilities, phone, insurance, anything with a known recurring amount gets cleared the moment money is available, not spread across the month, not left to autopay on different dates, not managed through a mental list of things to remember. The first woman lets bills autopay on various dates throughout the month, which means her account balance is never a clean, accurate picture of what she actually has available. She's accidentally overspent more than once because something auto-deducted when she thought the account had more room than it did. The second woman pays everything upfront and deliberately. What remains after savings and bills is the only number she tracks day to day, because it's the only number that represents genuinely available money, with nothing hidden behind future deductions she might forget about. Clarity is underrated as a financial tool. Knowing exactly what you have, not approximately exactly, removes an enormous amount of spending anxiety and prevents the vague over-optimism that causes most month-end shortfalls. After savings and bills, she divides what's left into 4 specific buckets every single payday before a single discretionary dollar gets spent. Groceries and essentials, transport, fun money. A fixed weekly amount that she can spend without guilt or tracking on anything she wants because it's already been accounted for. And a small buffer, an amount set aside specifically to absorb the unexpected things that arrive every month without announcement. She doesn't budget in the traditional sense. She doesn't track every coffee or categorize every purchase. She just assigns every dollar a general job before any of it gets spent. And within those buckets, she spends freely without guilt because the important decisions were already made. The first woman starts each month with a general sense of her budget and adjusts throughout. The result is a constant low-level anxiety about whether she's on track because a general sense is never quite accurate enough to feel confident. Step 5 takes about 90 seconds and requires no action at all. She opens the investment account, looks at the balance and the contribution that just arrived, and closes it. That's it. No trades, no adjustments, no research, just a 90-second look. The first woman hasn't opened her investment account in 4 months, partly because she's not sure exactly how much is in it, and partly because not looking feels less stressful than looking. The second woman looks because she knows something most people never discover. The act of regularly seeing a growing number, even briefly, even without doing anything, builds a psychological relationship with long-term saving that makes it significantly harder to abandon. You don't neglect things you pay attention to. You don't cash out accounts you've watched grow for 7 years. 90 seconds. No action required. But the habit of looking is doing more work than it appears to. She doesn't audit every transaction from the previous month. She looks for one thing, the single category where she spent meaningfully more than she intended to. One category, identified, acknowledged, and briefly thought about. Not with guilt, not with a plan to eliminate it, just noticed. The reason this works is that most budget overruns aren't spread evenly across categories. They cluster. One month it's food delivery, the next it's online shopping, the next it's a string of small purchases that each felt reasonable individually and looked surprising together. Noticing the pattern without judgment does something that strict budgeting rarely accomplishes. It changes behavior gradually without requiring willpower, because awareness alone shifts how something feels in the moment the following month. The first woman reviews her spending infrequently and broadly, which means the pattern is always there but never quite clear enough to act on. The second woman spends 2 minutes once a month looking at one number, and that 2 minutes has quietly reshaped more spending behavior than any app, budget, or financial resolution she's ever tried. Every payday, she updates a single number in a note on her phone, the gap between her monthly passive income and her monthly expenses. Today, that gap is still negative. Her passive income doesn't yet cover her expenses, but it's smaller than it was last month and smaller than it was 6 months ago, and tracking that single number every payday has given her something most people chasing financial goals never have. A measurable, visible, directional indicator that the plan is actually working. Most financial goals fail not because the strategy is wrong, but because the feedback loop is too slow. It's hard to stay committed to a 10-year plan when nothing feels like it's changing from month to month. The gap number changes the feedback loop. It makes progress visible at a resolution short enough to feel real. Not, I'll be financially free someday, but the gap is $47 smaller than it was last month, which means I am, by every measurable standard, closer than I was. Once a month, with no pressure and no deadline, she makes one small financial improvement. Not a transformation, not a resolution. One thing. Switch a subscription she's been meaning to cancel. Check whether her savings account is still competitive. Move a small amount into a slightly better vehicle. Ask one question she's been putting off. One thing. Done in the hour after payday when she's already in financial mode and the account is at its fullest point of the month. The first woman has a long list of financial improvements she's been meaning to make for 3 years. The savings account that pays almost nothing, the subscription she forgot about, the insurance she hasn't checked since she signed up. None of them are hard to address. All of them have stayed on the list because there's never a natural moment to tackle them. Payday is that moment, once a month, for exactly one item on the list. In a year, 12 small improvements. In 7 years, the portfolio of small improvements that silently explains most of the gap between their outcomes. After the payday routine is complete, she closes every banking app and doesn't reopen them for 48 hours. This sounds like a small thing. It isn't. Frequent account checking creates a specific psychological pattern that quietly drives bad financial behavior. Every time the balance is lower than expected, a low-grade anxiety triggers compensatory spending. A small treat, a small reward, something that recalibrates the mood without actually fixing the math. By contrast, not checking for 48 hours after a clean, intentional payday routine means the next time she looks, every important decision has already been made. What she sees is the real post-decision balance, the number that represents what she actually has after the important work is done, not a mid-process number that feels smaller than it should and triggers responses it doesn't deserve. Here's the step most people skip. She treats the payday routine as completely non-negotiable, not flexible, not adjustable when life is busy, not something she does when she's in the right mood. In 7 years, she has skipped it exactly once, a hospital visit that made the day genuinely impossible. She did it the following morning. The first woman has a version of most of these habits: a loose intention to save, a general awareness of her bills, a vague plan to invest someday. What she doesn't have is the non-negotiable piece, a fixed recurring moment where the intention becomes an action, regardless of how the rest of the month feels. Good financial intentions are extraordinarily common. The habit of converting those intentions into the same 15-minute action every single payday without negotiating with yourself about whether today is a good day for it, that is where almost everyone falls short. And it is the entire difference between a plan that exists in someone's head and a plan that shows up in their bank account. Go back to that 25th of the month. 2 women. Same account notification. Same $4,800. One of them feels the rush, acts on the first impulse, and moves through the rest of the month managing the consequences of a payday that arrived without a plan and left without one either. The other one spends 15 minutes doing 10 specific things, 10 steps she's repeated so many times they no longer require thought, effort, or willpower. They just happen in order, the same way, every month, while her account quietly builds something in the background that the first woman's account never will. Not because she earns more, not because she's more disciplined in some fundamental personality level way, because she learned 7 years ago that payday is a moment. A single recurring opportunity every month to make the most important financial decisions of that month before life has the chance to make them for you. Most people never do this. Not because it's hard, it's because nobody ever told them it was the thing worth doing. Now you know. If this gave you a different way of thinking about money, subscribe. New stories every week about wealth, choices, and the habits behind the numbers.